Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome back to another weekly outlook. So cool. Let's get straight into it. So it's the second week of the month. We've had NFP last week when it's not over on our body lifts, right? And I would argue it's a time to see how, the monthly candle is starting to shape up on all of our sort of, relevant pairs. So let's start off on this. Previous monthly low swept, has traded back into the range. Very similar on the weekly, not much to really say. This is a weekly OTE. It's hit this level. It's hit, the fair value gap. It's hit the mitigation block and the order block, and of course has reacted. When we come on a lower time frame, we see again the sweep and even equal lows though. Something to note, definitely. Should get rid of. Actually, we're going to keep this on the chart now. This low. Okay, cool. While we're marking this out, so with the sort of NFP figures that have come out right last week, with all of the news, we had a mostly bearish delivery, right, to start the day, or sorry, start the week. NFP drops, right at the end of the week. NFP drops, disgusting candle on DXY, sweeps both sides, does nothing. About an hour, maybe 2 hours after NFP drops, Trump says something about tariffs and DXY pumps instantly, right? Quite a volatile environment. You guys will see specifically on the DXY chart, but I'm not very convinced that this is some sort of bullish turnaround by any means just yet, right? Could it be? Possibly, yes. Price has started ticking some of the boxes for a potential reversal from here, but where we are right now, I would say, the bias sort of hangs in the balance. On the higher time frame, we've had that displacement down. We've had a very large liquidity sweep. And of course, even with these first legs of price, right, from the reversal, at some point they are going to retrace, right? So what better place to sort of have this retracement rather than sweeping the previous month below, taking that sell side liquidity, hitting these arrays, filling the fair value gap, and then trading back into range, right? So I would view this area now on the weekly time frame at least as a sort of range that we can trade into. So what are the areas that we're watching? We have this weekly order block, right? Bearish order block that's quite close, quite near us. And even on our daily time frame, we have a fair value gap that's slightly higher. What I don't like is that these highs are a bit flat, right? Over here, we have 1, 2, and we can argue this candle's high as well, leading into this sort of gap. This may be a drawable price in the short term, right? However, overall, unless we are absolutely smashing it through these highs but displacing above them, this to me is not a target. This is not something that's on the cards just yet. Now, I'm, just being honest with you guys, there's not a concrete bias to, say we're definitely bearish here or we're definitely bullish. Rather, it's a matter of let a few candles print, see which way price is pointing. If, for example, price trades here, we mark that weekly order block is within these candles, right? Trades into this area, right? Maybe even sweeps this, like we said, lots of buy side liquidity, and then immediately smashes down, then happy days. Easy target, we target slow. If price absolutely smashes through this, displaces higher, then we can start talking back about this, right? Potentially this might be a target considering we're coming from the previous monthly low. Now, cool. How does this pan out on the DXY? Same thing. Let's have a quick look at the monthly candle. Previous monthly high intact, previous monthly low intact, inside candle so far. Coming on weekly, we swept the previous weekly high. This sort of move up here hit the weekly rejection block, right? Hit that wick, traded lower, and now is back in the range we failed to take the previous weekly low. So now it's a bit of a weird one. This is a potential swing point. This could also be a potential swing point respecting the weekly fair value gap. It's the same, criteria. The US 10 years hit the order block, it's hit the previous mitigation block. So it's like, which way is it going to go? We're just not very sure at the moment. So now, what I like to do in scenarios like this, right, apart from basing off the thesis we had last week, let's consider two things. What's the sort of order of events? What was the last sort of major thing that occurred, right? And what stands out to me is that we had this consolidation, we had a massive manipulation event within this wick, hitting that weekly rejection block, sweeping all of these highs, right? All of these candle highs in between, all of that buy side, trading lower, actually displacing lower, leaving a fair value gap. And then of course within that, right, within that initial displacement, we like the retracements to the displacement, right? We always mention that. Prices actually trade back into the range and hit this 4-hour fair value gap, right? So what I would do here is keep this marked up. We want to see how price treats this. Rather than having the 4-hour fair value gap, we will change this to the daily as such and see how price treats this. Now, when the new week opens, what's likely, well, is, we've swept the previous daily low, we've pushed this way. It wouldn't surprise me if we go for one more push this way to sweep this candle's high, right? When we look at the weekly time frame, a run to the previous weekly high, depending on where we open, seems quite implausible. Meaning, it doesn't seem like, if you open anywhere near here where the previous candle closed, it doesn't seem realistic that price is going to run this way, if I'm being honest, right? It's much more likely, I think, we see it move this way. Now, despite that, one thing to definitely note is you see between these two highs, which is previous monthly high, previous monthly low, we'll mark this as well, is essentially just a large range, right? Now, the price action is a bit confusing. Some of the data that's coming out is conflicting, right, in terms of economics. It's very volatile. Trump saying a lot of things. The market's reacting very fast. This can lead to a higher time frame consolidation. There's a chance that, okay, we don't have a certain bias here. People potentially get hooked up on, oh, it's going to run this way, that way, this, wherever it is. It can just trade here, come back down, go back up, back down. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen it on the DXY. We've seen it plenty. It does it, right? It does it on any chart, right? Now, of course, we don't go in with that expectation. I would not expect a consolidation, per se on the lower time frame or on a day-to-day basis. Why? Because when we come into this week, we know we have, drivers for news. We expect volatility. We have Powell speaking on the Tuesday, right? End of New York session. The biggest driver of the week, I would say, is the CPI. We have Powell speaking again. And always, as normal, following the CPI, we have the PPI on the Thursday and then the retail sales. Now, considering the sort of last major economic news event, which is NFP, came out a bit ambiguous on the charts, right? It's just not come out with a clear back. It's not hammered us one way or the other. In fact, if we go look at it, I'll show you guys right now. This massive wick is the 15-minute candle for NFP. So if we just look back at the day before NFP, just very sideways, NFP comes, absolutely sweeps both sides. And if we zoom out a bit more, this is just sort of looking like its own consolidation as well, right? And then a bit after NFP dropped, which is here, we see Trump spoke around here somewhere, made a comment, and price just, blasted higher, taking all of that buy side into that daily fair value gap that we wanted to see get hit, right? So where does that leave us? What's the actual bias? How do we play this, right? Because it's all good and well to say these things. We want to know, how do we use this information? Guys, despite everything that I said, and it might have confused you and, which way is it then, blah, 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 whatever it is, it's very simple. There's a major news driver on the Tuesday, and on the Wednesday, if anything, is the biggest. You can literally just let 1, 2, 3 go. Potentially, you could trade on the Tuesday, on the Wednesday, but I would say it's unlikely we'll get anything after CPI, considering Powell speaking again. It's not something that I would consider necessarily high probability, right? There's a likelihood that he could say something and just completely turn the day around. So I wouldn't really risk it. However, if we look after CPI, hopefully this being a major news move gives us a very clear bias. If this gives us a very clear bias and sets the DXY in either direction, right? We have targets on both sides. If price displaces this way, then we'll start talking about this buy side and previous monthly high. Price displaces this way, which is what we want. That's sort of our base case scenario at the moment. We have the previous monthly low, then we have further sell side targets, right? So essentially, what we can do is let that news pass, and then hopefully we would have a very clear read on the daily candle for the Thursday and the Friday. If you get that clear read on these candles, that's all you need. If you have a very solid expectation from here to say, okay, yeah, the next candle is trading higher, that's it. That's your first green tick. Now we go down to the session. What do you need to see from your session? If it's showing that, what do you need to see from your entry, etc. That's it, right? You get to work. So you don't need to complicate it. If you're confused, if things aren't making sense to you, the chart's not looking great, which it's not, don't do anything. Just sit on your hands, let candles print until it's clear. The first sign of displacement that we get, either direction, that's usually something that should make your ears perk up. That's like, it's time to lock in and see what's going on now. What's happened, what economic news event, blah, 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 whatever it is. Right, so essentially where we are on the DXY, there's no solid bias. We just want to see the candles print. You want to see which way price goes. We go on the daily chart, there's nothing very telling or nothing amazing. Ideally, we want to see a move low from here. Like I told you guys, logically, if I have to pick a side based on the order of events, this massive wick sweeping all the buy side and displacement lower would lead me to believe that this is just a retracement. We might dig deeper into this, but from here, I would like to see us push down for the previous monthly low. Right? Come out. Some more monthly candle. Very untelling monthly candle over here as well. Maybe we have some GBP news. Mention that. Let's check it. Okay. We have got daily speed from the Tuesday. That is it. Oh, and we have GDP. That's what I was looking at. So GDP on the Thursday should be a big move for Euro GBP. Just something to bear in mind. Right. Coming on weekly, you can already tell from the daily candles it's going to be, not a great candle. Just very sideways based from the open to the close. But what is good to see is that we filled this whole gap, right? Had a massive volume imbalance here. We filled that whole gap. We come on our daily time frame. Price has actually left a nice wick and then moved away from that. Another time frame, what we see is we have some trend line liquidity built up. If I had to bet on the side here, I would say price is going low. The time being, at the very least, I think we see a previous weekly low sweep. And after that, we can see, but any solid push through these lows would definitely lead price to all of these flat lows and potentially lower than that. From the looks of it, I think we finally have the market maker sell order on our hands. It is, it just about missed that target we had for the SMR. Got very, very, very close, but it did run a lot of buy side in that run up. Has swept everything from this high and everything below it, and now of course we displaced lower and anticipate this to continue. Same thing here, when we come on the sort of higher time frame candles, it's not amazingly clear, especially weekly, monthly, as we already saw. It's not amazing, but if the month was to flip here and start trading this way, and of course previous monthly low, this swing low, this sell side target, again, wouldn't surprise me. Kind of similar to DXY, you've got a very big wick coming from one side. You would usually anticipate the next following candle to trade away, right? Bitcoin also on a inside candle on the monthly, weekly, not giving us much at the moment. So you guys know we had this massive sort of liquidation wick, taking lots of sell side down to bottom of the range, all the way back to the middle, and after that, literally nothing. Just bang on nothing, just fully sideways. There's nothing crazy going on, right? As you guys can see, even without me, putting out anything, it's just sideways. We've got a range low, we've got a range high. It's not doing much for us, right? From here, it is still possible that we can get a previous monthly low fee considering the proximity. We're not too far off. And of course, this is a very large fair value gap. We've just about, skimmed into it. But, it's quite a large fair value gap to move into this. If we consider the sort of high time frame range really and truly, we can look at this all as one range. And if we consider this, there's a chance for Bitcoin to drop a lot lower. Now, with crypto, I think one big thing is sentiment, and where we stand now, a lot of people are bearish. They think it's the top. I don't think it's enough. If you go back in crypto, or sort of, it's hard to like backtest this. This isn't necessarily a backtest on the charts, but before these sort of runs up, when you get, a bit of accumulation, everyone thinks, oh, that's it, it's topped out, we're going to reverse now, and then it goes in a mad one. Usually you get what they call max pay, where absolutely everyone's obliterated, the sentiment is horrible, everyone's just thinking, yeah, crypto's finished, everyone's capitulated, lost all their positions, there's no hope, and then out of nowhere it starts. Right, that's a very, very common thing in crypto. So I saw somebody, or rather the bar chart account, right, which is quite a big account, to post something saying, oh, I think something along the lines of how we topped out, or something like that, something in regards to Bitcoin. I quote tweeted it, right? But essentially the vote was very 50-50. I believe it was 55% yes, we have topped out, 45% no. I don't think that's enough. That means the sentiment is still 50-50. That means I think there's a lot more people that can get wiped out, right? Price can be pushed a lot lower, and it really, really would not surprise me if this ends up being accumulation, very sharp manipulation somewhere here, and then distribution this way. Because the second Bitcoin breaks this low, right, guys, it's the second it goes back into these 80Ks, drag it maybe into the 70s. That's it, all hopes lost. Everyone thinks that's it, we're done, we're never going back to 100K. Just then I think it will reverse and go back up. That's the sort of higher time frame scenario I would look at for the time being, unless we get some sort of massive, something to accelerate price action, some sort of massive news event or something to make it pump, which I think just for the time being is a bit unlikely. I would sort of bet on this scenario, because clearly in this consolidation, price is going nowhere. And lastly, SPX, I think very clear bias here. I think it's, I think the low of the month is likely in. Spoke about this last time. This week we've opened, swept the previous weekly low. Now, that's not exactly what we wanted, especially how last week closed, tapping, sweeping the previous weekly low, tapping into this order, but we want to see a new high. The next week opens, of course, is a bit of a dodgy week with what went on with NFP and whatnot. Where you see price traded back here and swept the previous weekly low again, trades high. Now, some people usually might get confused by this, but what you have to understand, this candle is doing the same thing that previous candle are. The same array can be retested, right? It's not the end of the world. So this can still be a potential thing point if price can push higher from here. What we have is a trend line building, sort of, between these highs. So what I'd like to see when the new week opens is, on a daily time frame, is potentially a sweep of this low here, right, the previous day low, maybe pushing a little lower into this range, but overall I want to hit the S&P run back up to these highs. The time frame, right? Again, very simple, guys. The charts are not amazing by any means. There's no concrete, clear bias we can have with a massive amount of conviction, but it doesn't matter, because it's not like you're going to go on the Monday and say, oh, I need to catch a trade here, or you're going to go on the Tuesday. You don't have to do it. Just wait till it's clear and then we'll hit. All right, that's it, right? Even simple, guys. Any questions, just drop it down in the comments or drop in the Telegram chat.